Welcome back. We are here, James. We are ready to go. I'm revved up. I'm ready to go. How are you
I'm,
feeling
I'm great. I just chugged a bunch of Coca-Cola and I'm on a sugar high. And so we
Ooh,
gotta finish this before I come down.
before that crash?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of crash, did I tell you about a little um, journey I had last weekend? 2 weekends ago now, I guess.
Oh, like on your bike through a park or something?
No, actually driving a car into Minneapolis to grab some breakfast after the delightful Zach and Jamie wedding.
Delightful.
Delightful. We went underneath the bridge. And as we were under the bridge, a bird came down, a big ass bird came down and hit our windshield and cracked it all up.
Oh, snap. Now that you talk about this, I do remember you telling me about this.
I did, yeah, I did inform you about that now that I remember. But it was kind of traumatizing. Not traumatizing, but it shook us. We were a little bit shooken, pretty shooketh after that.
Hmm.
I've been telling you guys all along, birds are no good. I can't think of a single good reason that birds exist. Like they carry flues around, yet they eat bugs, but so do spiders. Like, what is the purpose of birds?
Yeah. So like windshield, did it just like go through the windshield or did it just crack it?
It cracked it. Luckily, it didn't go through it, but it cracked it real good. Had to get a
Oh,
full
dang.
replacement.
Oof. Yeah, I know he's pretty heavy. Plus, like, was there any like residue, like yellow streaks
Yep.
on the windshield?
Yeah, there's definitely a
Oh
clear
no.
spot where he hit, not just where he cracked it, but
So what was he okay?
no idea.
No idea. He didn't see?
No idea. It
Oh
happened
man,
so fast.
man. Did you like call Elmo?
No, but we did call Grover.
Oh, okay. So okay. What about Snuffleupagus? Does he know? Is he next to, was he on the
I didn't
Well, I
have the
guess no,
heart.
you didn't see him. Yeah, you didn't have his like his emergency contact info.
Yeah. And even
Mm,
if I did, I couldn't. I know those two were tight. I couldn't be the bearer of bad news.
nope. Well, I'm sorry they had to go through that. I'm very sorry to Big Bird that he got hit by your car. But this is a fantasy football podcast, so I think we better get back into some more lighthearted fantasy news.
I completely agree. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to put this in the past and be done with birds forever.
So, are you just not allowed to watch any Michael Keaton movies now?
No
Just
Michael
like
Keaton movies.
that? Oh man,
Yep, not
was it
Spider-Man
detrimental?
Homecoming, not Birdman, not even Batman. That looks too much like a bird.
Yeah. Are bats a little better than birds for you, or same thing?
They're both flying things. They're not any
Hmm.
better.
What about like planes? Are you scared of those?
Planes are okay.
What about like small planes?
Um,
Like the ones that land on lakes and stuff. Those
I've
ever freak you out?
I've never been in one, but I probably wouldn't get in it.
Probably a good call.
What are some other Michael Keaton movies?
Other Michael Keaton, where he's a bird. Oh, I don't know. The other guys.
He's a bird in that movie?
No, but he is a Bed Bath and Beyond manager though. So there's that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The one who doesn't know anything about TLC.
Yep. Hey man, don't let's stop chasing waterfalls here, and let's move on to some league news.
Well, guys, I've been talking about it for a while, but I'm finally getting to it. The database will be posted as of Wednesday night. I'm going to have it up on the WordPress page. It's going to have the 2019 season data in there and everything updated. So be on the lookout for that. Might be able to have it in sooner than Wednesday, but no later than Wednesday night. That will be available for everybody.
On our other league news item, we will be figuring out a contingency plan in the case that COVID prevents the NFL from playing like a full season or fantasy season. We're not really sure how we're gonna deal with that. There's some suggestions with Sean doing a potential Madden simulation league. Anything to add?
Yeah, we'll just put together some ideas of what we want to do. If the season gets canceled 4 weeks in, are we going to treat that differently if it gets canceled 13 weeks in? How are we going to handle that? We still need to make a decision on the IR spots. So we'll be just putting together some ideas on how to handle those and send that out to the group so everyone knows with enough time ahead of the draft in case there are any draft implications. We'll make sure to get that out to everybody.
Now with that fantasy league news out of the way, we can transition to our actual football NFL news. Woohoo!
Well, everybody, some good news came out this week. The NFL and the NFLPA signed an agreement, and we will, in fact, be having an NFL season this year. We kind of knew that was coming, but it's good to know that they've officially agreed and start to put together some contingency plans of their own. So we will be having a season. Again, there's no preseason this year, and we'll just keep an eye on for what that means. But it looks like we will have football and we will have fantasy football.
Yeah, I'm very happy that, I guess, we were kind of expecting it, but they were able to come to a agreement there. One of the pieces they agreed on was the opt-out clause for players, which I believe that the deadline for players to opt out for the whole season is August 3rd. And we already had one person, I believe one of the starting linemen for the Kansas City Chiefs has opted out for this year. And as that, August 3rd deadline comes closer, there probably will be a few more players. So that's something to keep an eye
on. Just one other piece of NFL news. The Washington team is now the Washington football team. That is the name that they're going by temporarily until they get their new name approved. And I believe I saw a report that they're going with just some generic jerseys. Helmets are just going to have the players' numbers on them. They're sticking with the same color scheme, but they are now the Washington football team.
Man, I can't believe that's I thought that was a joke when, people were saying it, and that's actually what's going to be happening.
Yeah, hopefully they can get that legal dispute figured out so we can get a new cool football team out there with the new logo and mascot and everything.
Meanwhile, this will be a very, very interesting time, which, already was with all the coronavirus stuff, but be a very interesting time to talk about in future years about, hey, remember when Washington didn't have a name?
Yeah, a little trivia fact for the future there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for NFL news. Going to jump over to the crazy stat of the week. All right, James, you got your squat ready?
Yep. We learned from our mistakes, and we're now in the full squat.
Well, this week we got the chance to talk to Brandon Hubbard, one of the expansion teams from last season. And so I thought, what a guy. He's a great guy. I figured that we would have a crazy stat kind of on the theme of expansion teams. So we added Jake and Jackson back in 2016. and then we added Brandon and Matt Zabel in 2019, this last season here. So for these expansion teams, in their first season, none of them were able to win a game in week 8, going 0-4. And in those games, they averaged 83.2 points. Very low number. The following season, the expansion teams were 2-0 in week 8, averaging 107.1, an increase of almost 24 points. So it appears that week 8 was a little troubling for first year players, but watch out that second year. So the teams that are going to be facing off against Matt and Brandon in week 8 this next season better watch out.
You know, that actually is very good to know. So when we're making the schedule, we can just make sure to keep hitting that randomize button until, or at least I am not playing either of them in week 8.
Yeah, maybe put Zach there or something.
Sounds good.
So that's this week's crazy stat.
And speaking of expansion teams, I don't know if you know this, Andrew, but we were able to interview one of the expansion teams.
We were?
Specifically, yeah, we were. Actually, we were.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It feels like it never happened, but we actually were able to do that. And that team is, of course, owned by the Brandon Sean Hubbard. And so we are going to head to that interview right now.
Well, we're joined today by the one and only Brandon Hubbard. Brandon, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's an honor to be here. This is my first podcast I've been on, actually.
No way. This is the origin story when they make the documentary about your life and how you became a famous podcast interviewee, 50 years from now. This is gonna be right on that.
This is a stage entrance, yeah. This is where the podcasting career takes off.
Well, why don't you hit us with that excellent radio voice and tell us what's going on in your life? What are you up to? What's been happening in the world of Brandon?
Yeah, I've been just hanging low here in uptown in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Living with Luke, Jackson, and unfortunately no longer Matt Zabel, but we're just taking it easy, kind of hunkering down, trying to get out and bike while I can, hit up a few breweries. But it's been kind of a quiet summer, obviously, with everything going on.
You've been able to get outside and everything, though?
Yeah, actually just bought a road bike this summer, so I've been really getting into that lately. It's a good way to stay active since my gym membership's been kind of closed. So I also just don't want to go in with everything going on. So been trying to use that and explore the city a lot. So it's been actually really nice and get outside and do a little adventuring.
How is it biking around Minneapolis?
It's actually super nice. There's trails and bike lanes everywhere, so I don't really have to bike on the streets, which is nice. My mom appreciates that. Bunch of parks to get to, which is super nice. And then I like biking along the river. There's a bunch of nice spots to sit down, read a book, and just kind of hang out and relax.
Gotta keep Jane happy.
Man, old Mother Hubbard.
Old Mother Hubbard in her cupboard. Well,
that secret cupboard. We never
figured it
were able
out,
to open it.
We couldn't ever get in there, huh?
You know what? I know the old secret, but I'm gonna have to keep that to myself.
Oh
no!
Right on.
Right. Brandon, last year was the first year that you're in the league.
It was. What an entrance!
Yeah, what an entrance it was. I know that you did have some, at least a little bit of experience with fantasy football, since I have been in a college league with you for about 4 years now. And if I'm remembering correctly, you generally did pretty well in that league. I don't think you ever won it, but I feel like you were one of the top 3 teams almost every year. What was the transition like coming from that other league into this one?
You know, it was definitely a step up considering the other league we had was with our college group for everyone else, and then I'd definitely say most of the people in that group definitely aren't or at least not quite as the football minds that the people in this league are.
Yeah,
So
like
definitely
Jake.
stiffer competition. But I would admit that I probably came in a little overconfident. Got spanked down a little bit, but you know what? We'll see how it goes season 2.
Well, your record in the first season here was 6-7. You finished in ninth place, but you did have the fifth most points per game.
Yeah, I
So
know.
in playoffs, you were able to stay far away from the Sackle Bowl by scoring the most points of all teams in round one, putting up 149.7 and defeating David. So how would you summarize the success of your first season in the league?
I'd say very average. It's like I'm looking back at my team now since like I remember who's all like on there, and I'm like looking through the list and like there's no one that like really like jumps out at me. It's just like Todd Gurley, fine, then blown away. Joe Mixon, fine. Mari Cooper is a little better, I guess, but I feel like I definitely missed on a couple guys. Looks like it's like I
Yeah,
don't know. I'd say good enough to maybe sneak me into the playoffs, but I mean, even if I got in, I would have gone too far.
yeah. It seems like you didn't really have a lot of like major hits in the draft,
Yeah,
but like overall, you had a pretty solid draft. Looking back at it, you did draft Sammy Watkins, which wasn't great, but your first 8 picks all finished in the 9 to 14 range for their position. You mentioned Todd Gurley. Obviously, he underperformed, but he was still, RB 14. Then you had Joe Mixon, RB 13. Mari Cooper, wide receiver 9. Edelman, wide receiver 10. Henry, tight end 9. Uh, Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 13. Matt Ryan, QB 13.
my
No,
defense
no
had a
real.
great kicking game though.
Who was your kicker
We
for
got
last
Will
year?
Lutz here for
Oh yeah,
second-rate kicker.
yeah. That he was definitely ranked higher than
He was
mine,
the
which is
bedrock of my team.
yeah. It's always good to have your foundation be your kicker. That's always a path towards success. So even though you didn't really have any standout players, what was your general strategy that helped you identify talent, especially when we were deeper in the draft?
When it gets deeper in the draft, it's definitely for me just best player available. I mean, earlier on, I try to focus more on the running back since like the depth there is a lot limited. And I don't care saying this because don't look at my draft strategy; it obviously doesn't work. But I usually try to stay stronger to running back early on, and then kind of drift more into the wide receiver territory. But yeah, later in the draft, I guess I'd just say yeah, just like best player available. I'd maybe more apparent that my research going into the draft wasn't as extensive as a lot of you fellas, but did a lot of them looking just at like player ranking lists and like stuff like that, which clearly wasn't enough. But
Did you to like identify best player available? Did you do that by just following like an expert list or a few like expert lists, or did you
that and
form
like
like
looking
your
kind of, I mean, I guess I look at like last season's stats, see who's like performing well, and then I do rely on like the projections to some extent, not too much, but yeah, a lot of like looking at like how people performed last year and then seeing it where like people moved. If someone got like traded to like a team with like a better QB or better offense, stuff like that. Nothing like too extensive though. I like to be a little more free flowing on draft day, not be tied down to like a list or like data sets as much.
Sure. Yeah, just being able to have that flexibility and like you said, just taking the best player available. And I think, looking back at your draft, you certainly did getting some good value there. Did you have a player on your roster who was your favorite, someone you really enjoyed watching play in the league?
Oh gosh.
I think you might have already mentioned him in Will Lutz.
That is very true. I'm a big Will Lutz fan. Honestly though, like for actually like watching football after like the Vikings play, I don't like put a ton of time into like watching like other teams. like during like a week, like I'll obviously like watch the Vikings game, but after that I'll watch like maybe another game, maybe two. I guess usually we'll like throw on like Thursday night football or the primetime games, but beyond that, I don't like go out of my way to like watch my players like play throughout the week actually.
So follow-up question with that then, if the Vikings are the team that you primarily watch, when it comes to draft time, do you find yourself maybe going after some of the Vikings players a little bit earlier than they're projected to go?
Mm, not really. I guess in our college league I did have Adam Thielen, who I really wanted since he's like a favorite player of mine. I do have Madison. I always like to have like one Viking on my team just so I have like a little bit more to cheer for. But obviously he didn't do too much. He was a good handcuff though, with like obviously like Cook not being able to play a full season. And then I'm also just like a little bit higher on him. I always liked him coming out of the draft, but I wouldn't say I reach usually on like Vikings players to like get my favorite player. I don't think.
Do you do that with former Gopher players at all?
Mm. You know, we don't have too many guys in the league, so I haven't. But now with Tyler Johnson joining the league, I might have to.
Yeah, he's got Brady as his quarterback. Is he someone you take?
I mean, if he falls to the right spot, I definitely would. Right now, I don't know where he's like projected to go, but I would love to have TJ on the team.
Right
Or yeah.
now on ESPN, Tyler Johnson is projected to be wide receiver 115 off the board.
So yeah, it's probably undrafted.
You know
Hey,
what?
that
Round 16, I got dibs. All right, I'll throw that out there.
All right. We can respect
watch
that.
out for next year. He's gonna
Next
light
year, I'm
it up.
taking Rashad Bateman first round.
Oh yeah, that
You
is
can hold
true.
me to it.
Yeah, so will some other NFL team, right?
Better be.
So this might be a result of having such a solid draft, but you were one of only 3 teams from last year who did not make any trades at all. Are trades something you usually avoid,
Gosh, I
or were
was
you
going to
just
follow up on
not?
that. Yeah, I was going to say I had an all right draft, but I feel like, yeah, what definitely didn't push me over the top was my lack of trade making. I usually tend not to do quite as many as a lot of people do. I don't,
Were
I
there were there offers that you got that just weren't good enough that you passed on, or were people just not really offering you
Yeah, I
any?
remember there's like a few, not too many. I'm trying to remember like some of them. I know like I think Zach proposed a trade, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
he does that.
I wasn't too confident in it. I'm definitely a little more cautious when it comes to trades. I usually expect the worst from people, and then I'm a little more cautious. I was planning though this year. I think I might try and do a little bit more trading behind the scenes to see if I can like push my team over the top a little bit more and move some guys around if I need some help in certain areas. Like this
I could
last year, I think
definitely.
like wide receiver, I was never like really like confident in my receivers, and I like thought about making a few trades, but uh, just never panned out.
So when
I
you
could.
do get
I
a trade offer from somebody, how do you kind of assess the value of it to see if that's something that you would want to go through with?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't go like I look at like the I guess stats on the top, like how much are like they averaging a game. I mean, I guess I look at like player rankings, but honestly, I feel like I rely on my gut a little bit, and usually my gut tells me no.
I definitely can empathize with that. I feel like I always, unless a trade is obviously in my favor or definitely will make my team better, I always assume that like the player I trade away is going to be great and the player I get is all of a sudden going to be bad,
Yeah, or
and then
maybe
I'll feel
like they know
stupid.
something that I don't, so they're like trying to get rid of this guy before something happens. I don't know. I go into trades like very cautious usually.
Well, if you mentioned that going forward, you think you will want to trade more. How do you think you're gonna go about doing that?
I usually try to like wait for like a couple of weeks, obviously, into the season to see like how my guys are doing, see if like some people are like lagging behind or if some guys are having like a surprising season and see if I can get like some value there and like get a good player in return. But yeah, I guess I'm just gonna give it like a couple of weeks and see how the team stacks up, and then after that, it all depends how the guys are doing. If I'm like weak in like the running back room, then I'll certainly have to like make a trade if there's nothing going on the waiver wire or vice versa.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a really good strategy. We're going to take a brief pause here from the interview to talk about this week's sponsor. This week we are sponsored by Fiber One bars. These bars have a good flavor and 35% of the fiber needed by the average person for an average day. These remote-shaped snacks will keep you going all day long. Fiber One bars. Well, Brandon, while we have you here, we're going to hit you with our everybody's favorite segment, the Would You Rather. So, James, you got a question ready?
Oh, I got a few questions ready.
Oh,
Oh, hit me.
Brandon Sean Hubbard,
Jimothy McGee.
would you rather be allowed to do all the research you want and all the preparation you want, but then have nothing during the actual fantasy draft besides a pen and paper, or be completely blocked and blacklisted from all NFL and fantasy news until the morning of the draft, and then be able to draft normally?
Oh, I got to go with the second option. I would be so stressed out if I could do a ton of research and then the day comes and then all I have is like, is my paper blank or do I have like notes on there from my research?
I'm gonna say it's blank, but like you can write down notes
I can write down notes
after.
like the day of.
I'm gonna say like you can write down notes, but they have to be from your brain. Once you get that piece of paper,
Oh,
it's
see, I don't trust my
no
brain
looking
that
at a
much.
computer.
That just sounds stressful to me. I guess, I mean, can you memorize like a ton of like players and stats, but like when it comes to them the day of, oh my gosh, I would like panic or something. I need to see
I'll
like during
give
the
you
draft,
here.
like the players in front of me and like the
I'll
stats.
I'll give you this for the having no like information besides a pen and paper. I will give you the depth chart of all like the teams, so that you at least like have a list of all the player names in front of you that you can like cross off and stuff.
That would definitely
But
sweeten the deal.
otherwise, you have no idea the rankings other than from your brain.
Yeah, I'd still go option two. That would definitely sweeten the deal, but I'd rather just like wake up maybe like early and just like yeah comb through some like player rankings, depth charts, stuff like that, and then do the quick cram before the draft, and then maybe feel a little bit more confident than trying to remember everything that I like looked at. Am I on an island? Are you guys feeling the same way? Or are you guys going the other way?
I think
Sneed?
I'm going the other way just because I do an unnecessary amount of research leading up to the draft. I do billions of mock drafts, so I have a pretty good idea of where all the players are going. So having all that research to do ahead of time and just a pen and paper is definitely the route that I would go.
That's definitely fair, yeah. Because like before, honestly, like our draft, I didn't nearly do as much research as a lot of people. I looked at like one or two mock drafts. I didn't even like do any myself, and then I just like looked at like some like rankings, and I didn't do like the days and days and weeks of prep. Jimmy, how you feeling?
I feel like when it comes to just like having a decent draft, I think my draft might be just as good if I just like wake up and like, you know, look at, the consensus rankings and read a bit about the players. Like I probably want to spend a decent, like basically all day, you know, maybe not all day, but a few hours looking at stuff. I feel like I would end up having the same draft as if I just had all my prep time and could use whatever resources. But just not having like any fantasy or NFL news, that would annoy me so much. And even though it would be difficult, I think I would probably just rather be able to take in all the information, do all the information I want, and then just trust myself that I'll be able to make the right picks without any aids at all.
Trusting yourself. I like it.
All right, moving on to question 2. Would you rather sleep on the sidewalk outside your home and wake up feeling refreshed and overall feeling really well, or sleep in your own bed, but when you wake up, you have a horribly bad hangover?
Ooh. How long is this hangover lasting me? Like all day?
Like as long as your worst hangover ever.
You know what? Honestly, I would wake up on the sidewalk in front of my house.
All right, couldn't have guessed that.
Only problem is, I live in the city here, and we've had a couple rough weeks, so might not be the safest option. But God, I would feel so much better if I woke up and I was like refreshed and like ready to go with my day. Do I have the chance of like waking up and having like shit thrown at me, or people like drawing on my face? Are my belongings still in my pockets?
I'm gonna say,
are people fucking with me like while I'm sleeping out there?
The one thing you know is that you will wake up and you will not have a hangover and you will feel refreshed. You might feel refreshed, but with stuff thrown on you or painted on you. But you know what? You're gonna be
gosh,
you're gonna be in
that's
a good
good
mood,
enough
though.
for me. I don't want to just be like laying on the couch with like my mind just exploding from like the night before. Maybe that's fine every once in a while, but I'd much rather be more clear-headed.
What about you, James?
Yeah, like it depends on where you live, obviously, and even living in the suburbs.
I was gonna say, you down in Rosemount, I'd feel so much safer.
Yeah, and like I mean, it still wouldn't be great to sleep on the sidewalk, since like then all the neighbors will definitely see me there.
Or I was gonna say, you out there, you gotta watch out for like the coyotes.
Yeah, I guess you never know. I just hate, I've been hungover a decent amount of times in my life, and I always hate it so much, and it's the worst. So like, I'll take the, even if I was in the city, I'll probably do the sidewalk and just hope that people just ignore me. Just because like being hungover is the worst thing ever. And even if I can sleep in a nice bed, I'm waking up hungover. What's the point?
Smeed, how you thinking?
I'd probably do the sidewalk as well. I can't remember the last time I woke up and actually felt like I got a good night of sleep. So even if that means I got to do it on the sidewalk, then that's what I'll do.
I mean, honestly, then you could honestly like dress up as like maybe like a homeless person, and then maybe people like fuck off and leave you alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now not quite a would you rather, Brandon, but we do have a bonus question.
Oh, lucky me.
Throwing in this segment. So between the Minnesota Vikings, the Golden Gophers football team, Minnesota Wild, Gopher Hockey, and your own fantasy team, which one would you most want to win the next championship? So that's pro football and hockey, college football and hockey, and then your fantasy team.
My first gut instinct is go for football. I'm definitely more of like a college sports fan, so I won't pick the Wild, honestly. I don't think
you know what. Just
the
go
Vikings.
through. Who's number one? Is it go for football?
I think go for football is my number one team. Then we got the Vikes number 2.
Okay.
There's just like something different about like college like sports that I don't know, just like adds that like extra element to me. I think it's just like the atmosphere is like just different to me. I know. It's like kind of like how like there's like a little bit more like team turnaround, obviously, with like guys graduating, then like new guys getting recruited in. Kind of like how like the teams are move a little bit more.
How would you rank the rest of them? So, go for football, then Vikings, then.
Honestly, though, after that, then I might do the Wild, just because like not as many people like follow like Gopher hockey, so like I'd get super excited, but then everyone else would be like, "Oh, congrats, whatever." It'd almost be like if like Gopher softball won a national championship. People would just be like, "Oh, that's nice," but
It's like it's nice,
move
but
on.
yeah.
Wild hockey has like such a bigger following that like there'd actually be like statewide celebration from it.
So then between Gopher hockey and your fantasy team, which would you rather win a championship first? You can be selfish, Brandon. It's allowed.
Gosh, you guys might judge me, but I might put my fantasy team last.
No,
It would just
I
feel good
respect
like
that.
beating you guys and having the bragging rights, but then out of like our like league, it wouldn't mean as much. Like if I'm talking to like my friends, they're like, "Oh, you won your fantasy league, cool."
Yeah. See, I tried to
And then if we
brag
like
to
if like
people I
go for
didn't
hockey
know.
wins, then we have the bragging rights over like UND and Wisconsin. I just fucking
Oh
hate those
yeah,
schools.
that's nice. Yeah. Yeah, I would try to brag to strangers I won my fantasy league, and they were not that impressed. Gotta say.
There's like, "Oh, you're one of those."
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Okay, so go for football, Vikings, Wild, go for hockey fantasy team. Smead, how would you rank them?
Oof. I think I gotta go Wild first.
Mm.
I'm a big Minnesota Wild fan. Very much.
That's your number one team, right?
Yep, they're my number one team. Then I'll go Vikings second. Would really like to see them win it. I'll put my team third, my fantasy team third, just because I've never really been into college. But I like to watch the Gophers when they're doing well, so I'll put the football team next, and then never really got into Gopher hockey. I don't really follow that, so I'll put them last.
Yeah, it's fair.
Definitely fair
You didn't
enough.
go to the U of M, so they were just a
I
little
was
less.
raised a Gopher hockey fan, so I had to put them on there. But yeah, I know like a lot of people don't really follow them at all. Plus, they've been disappointing the last several years.
All right, James, how about you?
Definitely Vikings number one because they're my number one team. So Vikings. Then honestly, I was thinking like I'm usually pro sports over college sports, but I think I would go for football before the Wild, just because like I don't know this last year where we like broke into the top 10 or at least like a week.
Felt so good.
That was really fun because like we shouldn't like we were not supposed to be that good, and just like being in the same conversation as some of the best teams in the nation, that was so much fun. And I just really like football, and being a U of M alumni, gotta cheer for the Gophers. So yeah, Vikings and Gophers football, then the Wild. Then honestly, it's kind of toss up between my fantasy team and Gopher hockey because I've never seen Gophers hockey win a championship, but they have won a bunch of championships in the past.
It's only
So it
been
wouldn't be a huge
17
deal.
years.
Yeah, I guess it's been a while, but I guess I'll since I've won 2 out of the last 3 years, I'll say I'd rather have Gopher hockey win. But like once they win, it's like back to my fantasy team. I just want to win. Everyone, be sure to send us your rankings in your weekly emails to us.
Well, with that, let's head on back to the official interview section. All right, Brandon, we got a few more questions here for you.
Hit me with them.
So with a limited sample size of just one season played, you've faced off against Zach twice and gone 0-2.
Oof.
You've played James twice and gone 1-1. You've played David twice and gone 1-1. And your closest matchup was against Jake, where you won by just 0.3 points. So with that, who do you expect to become your biggest rival in the league? Is it one of those players? Is it someone else?
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, rivalries like take long to develop. See, I don't want to say Zach. I feel like everyone's got a rivalry with Zach because he's always so good, right?
Yeah, he's pretty solid.
I guess, yeah.
As hard as that is to say.
I guess he's pretty good. Did win. I guess winning is an objective measure of goodness.
Yeah, it's hard with just one season, just playing like all the teams only twice. I can't say I have like a rivalry set quite yet. I mean, naturally, I feel like I have a little bit of a rivalry with Matt Zabel being expansion bros, but he's just too nice to hate.
That is true.
Another stat to throw out there at you, your highest score or your highest points for when playing someone is against me. You put up 129.8 points when you went against me.
Damn right, bud.
Is this kind of your start of our little rivalry here, Brandon? I think you're probably the person in the league that I've known the longest in my life.
I mean, it's gonna be a tough rivalry for me, but
I mean, you're undefeated against Andrew, right?
Yeah.
what do I have to be like 1-0?
1-0.
Want to know? Perfect.
All right, well, yeah, you can talk to me once you finally beat me there.
All right. All right.
Yeah, can't be a rivalry yet.
Yeah, put up or shut up.
I'll see you next year.
All right, gloves are off. What is me and James at?
We're 1-1.
You're 1-1. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I think I had a slim chance of making playoffs at the end, which you helped crush by beating me near the end of the season.
Well, it makes me a little happy, to be honest.
Yeah.
It is kind of hard, though, because I haven't had any, like, playoff games, which are always
the one against David, where you did crush him.
I had David. That was also in, like, the losers bracket, which obviously a little less meaning.
Still good to help you avoid that punishment. We saw what the calendar brings with Jake's announcement there, but those wins in the loser bracket.
See, that
are still
punishment
important.
to me doesn't sound that bad. That would like that'd be a little fun, honestly. The one punishment I wouldn't want is Luke's when he had to do stand up. Oh my gosh, I would hate that.
So Brandon, we asked this question of Matt Zabel too, since he was also an expansion team last year. But do you feel that you have a better sense of your opponents now that you've played with all of us for a year? And you plan on using any of that information you have gleaned to your advantage in the coming years?
I'd say I probably have a little bit better idea how people like enter the draft, but like in terms of like head-to-head matchups, not as much. I mean, when you play different people, you don't usually change how you set your lineups really as much, do you?
No, not really.
I mean, I'm just gonna play like my best guys available, so
for the draft,
playing that week's isn't gonna have much of an impact. But obviously, everyone enters like the draft differently, so I mean, and like has slightly different like strategies. So I mean, that would potentially help a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of knowing the tendencies of the people around you can help you.
Like maybe someone goes a little bit more, like running back heavy, or likes to get a QB a little early, or maybe go for a kicker in round 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
It can help you play the ADP game a little more intelligently if you have a sense of, what position a player might go after early or late.
Yeah, exactly. Or I guess maybe if they have favorites too.
Yeah.
I found that can apply to trades too sometimes, like if I mean, like not to show my hand, but I know that when the Patriots were, at their full height, Cy was a pretty big fan, big Tom Brady fan and Patriots fan in general. And so I would tend to try to trade him. Yeah. I mean, I guess he's still a fan. I don't know. We'll see. But I know I would try to like trade him Gronk and be like, hey, he's a Patriot, so you should give me more valuable players in return because you like the Patriots. I don't know. Sometimes you can get away with stuff like that.
Oh, for sure.
Well, Brandon, speaking of the draft, do you have a favorite draft day beverage? Something you like to have in your hand while you're drafting?
I really don't. I mean, I'd probably just go with like nice light beer. Maybe get like a slight buzz to calm the nerves a little bit. Maybe like a McGolden or a Miller Lite. But I don't have like a my set go-to beverage to give me a little luck or anything like that.
Maybe that's what you need this next year. Maybe you gotta find that one.
Yeah,
Maybe
you could
I am a little superstitious, I guess. So I mean, I'll
just
take all the help I
a
can
little
get.
stitious.
Well, I know in like little soccer I had like a couple like superstitions.
Really? With the beer you drank before game?
Not with the beer I drank, no. I just
Oh, it
had
was
like
always.
my like set like pump up like playlists and songs I had to listen to and stuff like that.
Do you have any of those for the draft? Any songs?
Oh man. Not really. I mean, the morning of the draft I like to whack it, calm my nerves a little bit and get ready, get in the right like mindset. But other than that, I mean, I'm going in there, I'm ready to go get going.
Now, as a non-explicit podcast, that
Oh,
you
that's
of
good to
course
know.
meant weed whacking in like your yard, just trimming the edge of the lawn along the house.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. See, I like to keep like a nice, like well groomed house. So
Yeah.
always got to trim the edges, make sure everything's looking nice.
Yep.
Makes the
And
house
like
look bigger.
and like when you go to cook a burger, you really like to beat the meat, make sure it's nice and pounded, really,
I
really
like some nice
hammer
and
it.
tender meat, nice
Yeah,
tender patties.
Especially before the draft, just gets your mind clear.
yeah.
You know it.
No, Brandon, didn't you have a pet snake that you would sometimes strangle for good luck
Oh,
in front of
God. Oh, thankfully I did.
the day of the draft?
Yeah, that anaconda.
I don't
I
know
think it
about
was
that.
like a gardener steak.
Yeah, it was a gardener snake, like Andrew said.
Oh,
You don't have a favorite draft day beverage, but do you have a favorite golf day beverage? Something you like to have in your hand or in your cart while you're out there golfing?
you know what? I definitely learned from our college friend Charlie that I definitely need to have a couple brewskis with me out in the course, or else I just get way too inside my head. I used to, man, yeah, I'd get a little frustrated if I had to like hit a couple bad shots. So now I try to bring a couple like beers with me to keep me a little more level headed. I usually try to do like a beer every like 2 or 3 holes, calm my nerves, and yeah, kind of make sure I'm not getting too frustrated, not thinking about my shots too much. So yeah, usually, yeah, a couple like Miller Lights or McGoldens in the bag usually helps.
Yeah, are you going to be bringing that strategy to the competition on draft weekend?
Oh, I'm excited for that. Honestly, that was like one of the best parts of draft weekend last weekend or last year.
One last question for you, Brandon. You had a pretty solid first year, but it unfortunately wasn't quite enough, and it left you on the outside of playoffs looking in. And that has now made you the only team of 12 to have never made the winners bracket.
That's
What is
rough.
the biggest thing that you have to do this upcoming season to make playoffs and potentially more?
Man, I heard that before. That's rough. First out of 12?
Yeah,
Oh,
Sean did make it for the first time last year,
oh well, good for Sean.
and Matt Zabel was able to make it his first year because he's a good fantasy boy.
Yeah, well, he's a better footballer than me, so God, I feel like I touched it like on it earlier, but like yeah, I had like a fine draft, but I think it was just like fine. I didn't like after that do anything to push me over the top. So I think this year, yeah, it's like being a little more active on like the waiver wire maybe, and then proposing a few more trades to help out those like position groups that I'm like struggling on because I know I definitely didn't do that last year and I was just never fully confident in some guys. So I definitely need to be a little more active after the draft. And then obviously you need to have a good draft, but you always got to improve after that. I mean, your team's not going to be set after that. How was I in terms of like waiver wire action? Was I kind of like average in like the middle of the group?
Yeah, you had 17 transactions over the course of the year, and as we talked about, 0 trades. 17 transactions was the seventh most, so right in the middle.
Okay, that sounds about right. A lot of those are probably like defense too, though. feel like I usually like trade out my defenses quite a bit. I think I trade some like wide receivers a little bit, but yeah, I just need to be more active after the draft and like moving guys around if some guys aren't like doing it, or if some guy builds his like value up a little bit, and then I can like get something a little bit more from him. So hopefully I'll be a little more active this year with that. Then obviously going into the draft, probably doing a little bit more research than I did last year, and I don't know, having maybe a little bit more of a strategy going in rather than just like, this guy did good last year, highly ranked, let's go with him.
Very nice. Well, we've got about 3.5 weeks for you to get that research in, and looking forward to seeing you in person on draft weekend. And thank you again for your time here today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I guess you kind of had to, but look forward to seeing you boys there.
Oh, man, that was incredible. I'm just winded from all of the excitement of that interview. How are you? Are you hanging in there?
I am currently starfished on the carpet, and
Oh,
I'm barely hanging on. Yeah, I don't even have the energy. That interview it took all my energy, and it's gone. No, it's not. No, I'm here. This is where I am for the next hour.
all right. Well, if you need someone, if you need me to come get you, blink twice.
I can't even reach my life alert.
Ah,
It's too far away.
well, it was a splendid chat with Brandon. So grateful to have him on the show. So grateful to have you guys listening in, and can't wait to see you later this week. Signature sign off.
Wink.
Well,
I
Brandon,
know that we all love Fiber One bars.
Big fan. I can give testimonial to that. Highly recommend them. Just, I would avoid 3 in one day. That, oof, you don't want that.